every week we should do a spoiler alert. This book This book requires the biggest spoiler alert that there ever was.
It's got some pretty good spoiler to it.
Or does it? Because I mean, did you?
Well, it made me read it twice when I got to the ending.
Okay.
Reading it without knowing anything and then rereading it were different experiences. But only because kind of that twist at the end added another layer.
Yeah, this was a reread for me too, and I got more out of it the second time, but we'll be talking about it.
We'll be talking about it because we're Seattle's #1 comic book podcast.
That's right.
The only podcast dedicated to the first issue of your next favorite comic.
Episode
I'm James. What episode is it?
124.
Nice.
And welcome.
Welcome.
James, you threw me a loop here. Hi and welcome to Seattle's #1 comic book podcast, the podcast dedicated to the first issue, next favorite comic. I'm Larry.
Gotta get it right. I'm James.
I got it written down. No, dude. I don't, man. I got it tattooed on my arm. And so this week we are, on the big show, going to be talking about Jeff Lemire's Royal City. And we should do it every week, but this week we're definitely going to put in the spoiler alert. Because this is a spoilerific book, so if you didn't read Royal City, and why wouldn't you? It was very cheap on Comixology. I think I got the trade for less than maybe $3.
Nice.
The first
yeah, I don't remember what it was on Comixology, but it wasn't quite a free one. Yeah,
it wasn't quite free, but still a pretty good deal. Probably over 100 pages. The trade version was available. Anyway, good deal. Good deal to be had. Written by Jeff Lemire.
Great art.
And great art.
I could see this being the kind of art you might want to own a hard copy of.
Yeah. I think I haven't seen it in hard copy. I've seen it in floppy trade form, and it is fun to read. It's fun to read comics in paper form. Sometimes I get tired of the screen.
Well, you read a lot of comics there, so you got to balance it out. Got to give yourself a little up and a little down.
Well, I subscribe to a lot of paper comics, and one of the comics that I do subscribe to is this week's Recent and Decent.
Nice, tee it up.
This week's Recent and Decent, Savage Dragon number 239.
Whoa, Savage Dragon coming back.
Eric Larson's been doing this forever, and I have to say I'm not familiar with the story, and I've kind of let it fall away, and a lot of the issues go missing, and I just pick them up and read them when I can. And I do not know what's going on in this most recent issue, but there is so much monster action. There are dragons everywhere. And
that's what you get Savage Dragon for, is for the dragons, right?
Oh, the dragons, the mutants.
Big geeked out monsters.
And now it's not John the Dragon anymore. This is his son Malcolm and the adventures of Malcolm and Malcolm's family. They have 3 little dragon babies and his wife Maxine. And they're celebrities in Canada. And it's just wacky stuff. And the problem in this particular issue is if you get a little too much dragon blood, you can illegally pump it into your veins and make yourself into a dragon, but it's so volatile. Would you do that, Larry? No, because it's dangerous. You could explode. And that's what happens on page 7. A very bad guy shows up and Malcolm. Oh, also, it's very adult. This is not a kid's comic anymore. There's a lot of nudity.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever really counted it as a kid's comic. It was kind of maybe on the edge a little bit.
Oh, but this bad guy, his name is Norm Spiegelman, and he jumps in to get his revenge. I don't know what he needs to get revenge for, but he has 2 toes on each feet. It's so cool looking. And he smashes through the wall, and Malcolm punches him one time, and he explodes in a big bloody mess. Oh, This is great stuff. I wish I was reading it all the time and could tell you more about what this story is, but Monsters, done deal.
Monsters. It's keeping it up all the way through 200, 900, 298.
239.
39.
So, check it out. Savage Dragon 239. Eric Larson. James, how about Royal City?
Let's start into it. So this is another Jeff Lemire comic. We did Sweet Tooth a long time ago, and it was one of both of our favorites. Jeff Lemire's got a kind of a pretty unique art style with his, it's like watercolory, it's pretty loose. But because he's one of our classic singer-songwriters, author, illustrators, he can really get the vibe of a comic working on every level. So I almost want to start with the art because I think it sets the tone first, maybe more than the plot does. What do you think about this art here, Larry?
Oh, it's just great. So the setting is a steel mill town that's gone, or maybe it's like a plumbing manufacturer's town. That's exactly what it is. They make plumbing fittings in this factory of Royal City. And the first page,
it's like like you can imagine it being in like Pennsylvania or somewhere like that, an industrial town that's kind of, it used to be bigger, now it's not, like a Detroit suburb type place, or it's not very attractive looking. There's lots of like browns and grays, yellowy greens.
Well,
that kind of.
The cover and the next opening page, not even the title page, it's just the doodle page, is the same page. It's the cityscape of Royal City in black and white. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing this? I'm just kind of going back and forth. And he's drawn it twice, different cars and stuff in the way. But the black and white with like the ink over the top of the page looks like big bruised clouds coming in.
Yeah,
it's
the
gorgeous.
Clouds are really cool. Like, if you like impressionist style, or if you don't need some real crisp lines or real sure edges, like I'm looking at his shirt on this one, and it's like, when people are like, my kid could do that? This is like a level better than that. Not critiquing the type of, like, that type of art where people are like, oh, my kid could do that, because really they couldn't, because they couldn't think to do it.
Uh-huh.
But just like the technicality and the brushstroke, you're like, that doesn't look so. This isn't quite that level. This is more advanced than that, but it has some edges. It has some moments where you're like, that's just like that I can see that one brushstroke, or like,
and it speaks volumes.
There's detail where there needs to be, like in the faces, he really puts in some good detail. But if you look too close at some of the background stuff, you're like, wow, like, how can I tell even what that is?
Yeah.
I mean that purely as a compliment.
Yeah, I mean it works so well. So he opens the book with some points
there's like amazing detail, like the brickwork on this house. There must be 2,000 bricks on that house that I can see.
And then the sketch of the power lines. The power lines just disappear in the air. Cause and that's kind of how power lines do. You don't see those.
Yeah.
And they just sort of drift away. Oh, it's so pretty. It's just so cool to look at.
Yeah.
But I don't want
to... Because the coloring is one thing that's really cool, and the lines is cool too. Like, there's detail in the lines, but you're right, sometimes they just fade away and where it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, now I'm looking at that house. So the cover, I want to talk
about the house, that mailbox. I feel like I could draw that mailbox, probably.
Yeah, you'd probably do a good job.
I couldn't get it to fit into this world where there's other stuff that has more detail and the coloring and the shading and the.
Yeah, so
I really like this just outside shot of the house.
Yeah, it's dark. It's exterior of the house at night,
Mm-hmm.
and you can almost get a sense of what time of night it is too. But we find out once we go into the house that it's exactly 11:49 at night, or it's 11:23.
Like, where did you get that? I'm looking at the clock. I was going to say it at the same time as you. 11:23.
11:23, and older looking guy is having trouble sleeping. He just tells so much with like
Yeah, he's got like a red nose and a mustache, and
look at that guy's face. He just has these colors to him.
he looks old.
He looks old. And we see him sneaked in down to the refrigerator to get, and there's some word bubbles. Yeah, do we need all these word bubbles? We get what's happening.
Yeah, you're right. You don't even need them. Like, there's 10 words in each of them, maybe 5 different little blurbs of, I am alone.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the only one who thinks all like this all the time. But you're right. It would be cool if he just left it without dialogue, without those bubbles.
I know.
I do. The more I've been seeing that in comics of delaying that first word, the more I look for it.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, oh, they went 5 whole pages without saying anything.
Yeah, I don't want to project too much on Jeff Lemire here and say like, oh, what could I glean from these few panels, and how close would I get to his wording?
Yeah,
because this guy is alone and he is having trouble sleeping, and that's what these word bubbles tell us, that he's, it's the weird hours of this night and this town that I live in, and it's a weird. Am I the only one that feels this way? Can it be this way all the time? It's just neat. It's just it's a neat setting that he's put together here.
Yeah, he's not rushing to it. When you said that he didn't need those word bubbles, I wouldn't put that as a critique on the writing. I'd say it's just a compliment to the art.
Mm-hmm.
That the art tells so much that you hardly need anything more. So anyway, he's down and
he's sneaking a snack, which he wasn't supposed to be having snacks after a certain time of the night because he's old.
Yes. So his wife gets mad at him, and then he gets mad at her because she smells like cigarettes. So they're both, doing the wrong thing but getting mad at each other. But the other one's just, they're just looking out for the other one.
Uh-huh.
But that kind of old married couple relationship, and he goes to his shed, or his work shed, where I thought this was a really cool detail. He's like working on a bunch of old radios.
Uh-huh.
And I just like the idea of this guy's got a garage with a bunch of old radios in it that he fixes up.
Yeah, and it's neat too because it's not just like, oh, here are, we get a real variety of very cool vintage old radios and stuff, but we also get to see the inside of one and see him actually put his hands to work on one of these things and start maneuvering some sounds out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
they have cool colors too, but it doesn't like brighten up the world.
Right.
Even though there's all these, like, if you went to a real person's garage and they had all these things, you'd be like, wow, look at all the color. But in this, it's like the world is too gray for this color to really help out very much.
This is where it gets a little, I don't know, out of this world. It's a little worldly, like, I don't know, atmospheric or something. Because what happens, James?
He hears his son Tommy talking through the radio that he's trying to fix. And it's that you can see him say, like, it says daddy, but then it has like a bunch of hisses and radio sound. And then he passes out, and you can't tell if he's quite dead or if he just got, if he passed out. But he's on the